Now this one's going to be a digital game, so I don't exactly have a physical copy to show you. So I have taken the liberty to just writing it down for you. I've been collecting these over the past few years, and this one is one of the latest additions. Lego Marvel Avengers, and in this case, I decided to take a look at the DLC that I have so infernally despised all this time, and probably continue to despise up to this day and going forward. I ended up picking up the deluxe edition of Lego Marvel Avengers, which includes every single speckled pack of DLC characters and story missions that you could possibly ever hope to have or want. Lego Marvel Avengers compared to Lego Marvel Superheroes. Most people say Lego Marvel Superheroes is the superior game, to which I would probably disagree, though I think Lego Marvel Superheroes 1 is superior in terms of its roster. Lego Marvel Superheroes 1, in terms of its roster, is superior in that it contains most of the Fox side of the family of characters, being the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, Ghost Rider, Blade, Elektra, a bunch of good characters, Spider-Man villains on the Sony side of the family. There's a bunch of stuff in here that this game sadly does not have. Now, if we're going to be going through Lego Marvel Avengers, I'm going to have to just make this a comparison video, so we're going to be judging it based on the following, compared only to Lego Marvel Superheroes. We're going to be going over plot, characters, DLC, and how it holds up compared to the other one that doesn't have DLC. Let's go with hubs. We're just going to call it hubs. And let's say content, just overall content and what's in the game. Okay? So here's our comparison plays here. Let's start with the plot. The plot in Lego Marvel Superheroes is an original story, in which case that immediately elevates it above Lego Marvel Avengers. Lego Marvel Superheroes also includes 10 bonus missions, usually just about one stage. They're very small, but they involve 10 levels where you could do extra Deadpool missions and stuff, so you got more stuff to do, more characters to unlock, more things to enjoy, just in general. Sorry about that, where were we? Alright, we were talking about the plot. So the plot in Lego Marvel Superheroes is an original story. It's obviously going to be superior to Lego Marvel Avengers, which is not an original story. Lego Marvel Avengers basically covers the first two Avengers movies, which is Avengers and then Avengers Age of Ultron. It does not cover Civil War, though one of the DLCs does add in Spider-Man from his Civil War coming out. Though I believe there is a Civil War DLC for the PS4 version. I was playing the PS3 version, so I don't think that DLC came out for the PS3. But on the PS4, I believe there is a Civil War DLC pack. But I didn't get that one. I just got Spider-Man and his Civil War from the free Spider-Man DLC, which I will talk about that in the next bullet point. There are no bonus missions in Lego Marvel Avengers. No Deadpool missions, none of that stuff. It's just basically the first two movies. There's roughly about 6 levels in each movie. So you get about 12 stages, and that's about it. You don't really get anything else. No, wait, you do get 3 other missions for a total of 15. You get a mission detailing Iron Man 3, summarizing it. You get a mission summarizing Thor Dark World, and you get a mission summarizing Captain America the Winter Soldier. Summarizing. They're not going into detail about them. They're just summarizing. You get 1 level for the whole movie. unlike Avengers, which is 6 levels for that movie each. So for a total of 15 levels, yeah. You get about 25 or so in superheroes. Lego Marvel Superheroes, the first one. So I think that one is a little bit superior to this one in regards to plot, original plot. You've seen the movies. If you've watched the Avengers movies, you know the story of Lego Marvel Avengers. There's nothing new added to the table here. So what else do we got? Let's move on to characters. Now, I don't have the PS4 edition. I don't have a PS4. I don't have a PC that could play PS4 tier games. But I do have the PS3 version of this game, so I can talk about the DLC for that, which I will. In regards to the rosters, in LEGO Marvel Superheroes, it relies not on DLC. There's no DLC, as far as I'm aware, for LEGO Marvel Superheroes. There's a huge roster covering a lot of characters from a lot of properties. You have the X-Men characters, a bunch of X-Men some of which I didn't think would make it into the game. Now you have your basic staples like Wolverine and Cyclops. You got Wolverine, Cyclops, Jean Grey, her Phoenix persona. You get Magneto, Professor X, Storm, Beast, Gambit. I don't remember seeing Rogue, so I don't think she's in here. There's a fair few X-Men roster characters. Sabretooth, Mystique, Toad. I think Blob's also in this. There's a bunch of X-Men tier characters. There's a bunch of Punisher. The Punisher's in here. Daredevil, though Daredevil is in both games, yes. Elektra is only in LEGO Marvel Superheroes. I pointing. I'm gonna hold on. There. Now you'll know which one I'm talking about. Alright, so I'm going to be pointing at this one when I'm talking about this game. I'm going to be pointing at this one when I'm talking about this game. There we go. Now it's a little bit more easier to understand. So when I'm pointing at this one here, right? So we got the Punisher in this. Daredevil is in both games, but Elektra is only in this game. Spider-Man is in this game with a bunch of the Spider-Man villains. There is no Spider-Man in the base game, though there is a free DLC that includes Spider-Man and versions of Spider-Man. No Spider-Man villains, sadly, no Doc Ock, no Green Goblin, none of that. But you get Spider-Man, his Peter Parker persona, you get Miles Morales, Spider-Man, and then Miles Morales' base form. You get Spider-Girl, you get the Iron Spider, no Venom. But you get Spider-Man in a Civil War variant. There's a bunch of Spider-Man type characters in the free DLC for this game. In the base game here, you get Spider-Man, and you get the Iron Spider. You get most of the characters that DLC adds into this in here in the base game. On top of that, you also get Venom. You get, I believe you get Sandman. You get Doc Ock, Green Goblin. That big dude, that big dude, I know his name. He's got the big white coat. He's a big fig. He's that big dude. I don't know his name. There's a bunch of Spider-Man villains in the base game here, and it was awesome. There was a love letter to Spider-Man, those characters in here. And he was part of the main story, which is also fantastic. They incorporated the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, and the Avengers into an original storyline in LEGO Marvel Superheroes, which immediately elevates it vastly, super, way above LEGO Marvel Avengers, in my opinion. No, what else? Oh yeah. There's no Fantastic Four in here, though they added the Human Torch, and the Human Torch has his basic moveset, base core moveset from this game. It's just they found a loophole. You see, before Johnny Storm, there was an original Human Torch character that they had even longer ago that they called the Human Torch. And so Marvel still had the rights to that version of the Human Torch, whereas Fox has the Fantastic Four's Human Torch. So they were able to add Human Torch into this carrying game, but the classic version, they called him Human Torch Classic, though it's basically the exact same Human Torch from this game. But I'm glad that they included Human Torch, though I would have wished that they had the other characters, Mr. Fantastic, and all that stuff. Thing is basically a Hulk copycat, and Hulk is in this, so naturally you don't have to worry about that. What else? Sue Storm. I guess Scarlet Witch has the same abilities that Sue Storm has, so she's in here, so it's fine. And then Mr. Fantastic. Miss Marvel, MS Marvel, the kid, the one from the TV show on Disney Plus that I didn't watch. Miss Marvel is in this game, and she has basically the same moveset as Mr. Fantastic. So the core roster of the Fantastic Four is in here in regards to movesets. They're just different characters. So I like how Marvel was trying to work around all of those things and the rights to characters, and they added in characters to complement the movesets that they lost in LEGO Marvel Superheroes. So that's fine. But again, there's no Fantastic Four in here. Doctor Doom is not in here. Doctor Doom is in here, and he's a major focus. He's one of the main villains. That's awesome. What else? Blade. Technically, Blade is in this game. He's just not called Blade. Blade is in this game, the base game, and he is called Blade. In this one, the way that they worked around it, if you have to be a fan of the comics, and I'm obviously not, but I did do my research on this. Ronan, the Ronan character. I do know my Marvel movies, at least. In Endgame, Hawkeye took on the persona of Ronan, which is basically like this anti-hero, vendetta bounty hunter type of character that goes around hunting villains and taking them down, like a one-man army, rebel without a cause type of character. And one of the people to take up the Ronin persona was also Blade. So, the Blade is in this as Ronin. He'll be called Ronin instead of being called Blade. Though they do say Ronin, parentheses, Blade, parentheses, and I guess that's how they were able to work around it, because the character of Ronin does use a blade. so maybe that's how they worked around the rights, since, you know, Fox has Blade in the on their side of the family. I don't know how they were able to get them all in this game, but then a few years later they couldn't in this. I don't know what they were doing. I don't know what was going on in their mind. But they do have Blade, but he's called Ronin in this game. Punisher is not in this game. He's in this game. What else? Who else did they cut out? Oh, the Guardians of the Galaxy. I believe at the time of this movie, the first Guardians of the Galaxy was released. And they do have a bunch of Guardians of the Galaxy characters in here, such as Nebula, Mantis, who else? Ronan, not Ronan as in R-O-N-I-N, it's R-O-N-A-N, Ronan the Accuser. Ronan the Accuser is also in this. He was also in this one. But they have some Guardians characters in this, but they don't include the actual Guardians. Drax is not in here, Rocket Raccoon, Groot, Star-Lord, and Gamora. Those 5 core characters, the 5 core members of the Guardians, are not in this game. They are in this game, though. So I don't know what's going on there. Nebula, though, I feel like she's only in this game to cover Deadpool not being here. That's another big character that's not in this game. Deadpool's not in this game. He is in this game. He's a major focus of this game, but he's not in here. Deadpool's on the Fox side of the family. He's basically in the X-Men side of the family. When Fox bought the X-Men property, Deadpool was part of that. So they don't have Deadpool in here, but they have Nebula, and they gave Nebula dual swords, and that dual sword moveset that she uses is essentially... Oh, I just noticed there's no R in this. Oh, look at that. Wow. It took me this long to notice I didn't add an R. That's crazy. It just goes to show you're not paying attention to... but yeah. Where was I? Right. Nebula does not have Deadpool's guns, but she does have his swords, and she does have the exact same moveset as Deadpool had in this game in regards to the swords. So that's good, that's fine. But I would have wished you had Deadpool in here. I would have wished you had the X-Men, Deadpool, Fantastic Four, the villains, Spider-Man villains. I wish you added all those in. And the way they compensated, there is more characters in this game than there are in this game, in the core total. The way they compensate for that is they add in a bunch of agents. Agent X, Agent Y, Agent B, C, 2B, 1 through 4, A to 8X, whatever. They have a bunch of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents in this game. And they have basically various types of movesets. A bunch of them just have a gun. They just shoot a gun. They do regular punch, and that's it. A bunch of agents from S.H.I.E.L.D. are in here to compensate for the lack of characters or variety. They have a construction worker, basic characters like construction worker and things like that. They added in here to compensate for the loss of a big chunk of the content and characters of this game. So that's a problem. That's painful to see. So, let's talk about the DLC. Right. So we have a Doctor Strange DLC, which adds in Mordo, the comics version of Mordo, not the movie version of Mordo. I just wanted to let you know that, because when you see a white guy Mordo in here, that's the comics Mordo. You know, he's not the same Mordo as the movie one. What else? I don't think Wong's in here. I don't remember seeing him. But Mordo's in here. Dormammu, he was in the base core roster in this, but he's now on DLC. A lot of characters that were in the base core roster in this game have been demoted to DLC. Black Panther was in the base game. He's now in his own DLC. So if you do not get the Black Panther DLC, you will not get to use Black Panther. Though Black Panther and his cat, Mr. Tittles from this game, are mentioned in this game. If you don't have the Black Panther DLC, though, you don't get to see any of that Black Panther play as Black Panther and all that stuff. Black Panther's moveset the exact same as in this game. So it's the same character, same minifigures, all that stuff, but he's been relegated to DLC, which I absolutely hate. But I got the DLC just to see the differences and see if they actually it made new minifigs and new combos, and they didn't. A bunch of the characters that were in the base game here have the exact same movesets, but they were relegated to DLC, which pisses me off. Captain Marvel has a DLC, and it's based off the comics. Captain Marvel. It's not based off the movie, because, you know, the movie was like 2019. This was like, what, 2016, 2017? Whatever, somewhere around there. But Captain Marvel has a DLC, and it's fine. It's honestly fine. I honestly had no problems with it. It was a pretty fine DLC. She was actually pretty likable in it. What else? They have a villains DLC pack. I don't know what it's called. Masters of Evil or something. Where you get to play as Baron Zemo or something. And you get to use a bunch of villains, like Nuclear Man or something. And a bunch of those types of villains. And they added in a bunch of throwaway characters, one of which was in the base game here. They called it Iron Man Classic, Thor Classic. Both characters are basically the exact same as their base Iron Man and Thor counterparts. They just have a separate slot called Classic. I'm guessing this means that they're original minifig versions. But they were included in the DLC pack. So they take up 2 extra slots instead of 2 new characters, so that's disappointing. But the villains that they do add, the new characters, they're fine. I liked them. Though there are 3 Black Knight characters. The 3 different people played the Black Knight character in the comics, but they added all 3 as 3 separate slots on the roster. And one of them does have a unique moveset, but 2 of them are the exact same carbon copies. They're just different outfits. I think you should have just had them as a single slot. But since they're in 2 separate DLCs, one of the Black Knight characters is in the Black Panther DLC, and then the other Black Knight character is in the Masters of Evil DLC. So I don't know why they did that, but they did, so whatever. What else? The Ant-Man DLC. I like the Ant-Man DLC. The Ant-Man DLC covers basically the Ant-Man movie. And though they do gloss over a lot of the major events to try not to spoil the movie. It feels like it's just like a promotional event for the movie, I guess. And I like how they have Michael Pena narrating the whole movie, like kind of how he did in the movie when he's flashbacking. When he does his flashback scene where he's telling you, well, you see what happened was, you know, that guy, that's basically the whole DLC. He's basically summarizing the events, and I liked that. That was pretty funny. The roster that they add, Ant-Man and the Wasp were already in the base game, in the base roster, in the base core roster of this. But they do add in Hank Pym. They add in whatever that other guy's name, the villain guy, whatever his name is. They add him in. They had a bunch of guys in here. But they have the movie versions, right? The base game, core roster, Ant-Man and the Wasp are from the comics. What else? I'm trying to remember all the DLC. There were a fair few. But whatever. The DLC levels, overall, in general, were fine. They have multi-tiers, multi-stages, which I appreciated. So, they might be worth getting if you get the deluxe edition. They're not worth getting singularly, one by one. You should get them all in one go, right? Get the deluxe edition of the game just to have them all in the core game. You don't want to buy it separately or anything like that. But it does feel like a bunch of the characters that they added back in from the DLC were in the base game of this. They just added them back as DLC. Pay extra for them, basically, and that kind of sucks. And there's one other thing I could add about characters, though, for the LEGO Marvel Avengers. There's no Wolverine, but there is a character called Moon Boy, who has Wolverine's hair, and he has Wolverine's moveset. He just doesn't have the claws or whatever, and he doesn't have Wolverine's voice actor or his outfit, but he does have Wolverine's moveset. So that's pretty cool. I liked that they added that in. I think that they did that intentionally because I think that they knew they didn't have the rights to Wolverine, but Wolverine's like one of the biggest characters on the Marvel side of the family, so they knew they had to have somebody who looked like him at the very least, so that people could just imagine that they're playing as Wolverine. So they brought in Moon Boy or whatever, and that was fun. And for all you LEGO Jurassic World fans, there is a giant playable T-Rex in this game. That was amazing. That was amazing to me. You could play as a giant friggin' T-Rex running around Manhattan Island, just smashing cars and all that stuff. It was very fun. There's no giant T-Rex in this game, but there's one in this that you could play as. So that was awesome. What else? I'm trying to remember. Trying to think. Overall, though, I prefer this game's roster since a lot of this relies on DLC characters coming back that were originally in this game to begin with. So that's disappointing. Most of the roster in the base game relies on the movies, though oddly they left out Whiplash, and I think they left out the main Iron Man villain from the first Iron Man movie. I think they left him out as well. But Whiplash, who is played by Mickey Rourke, he is not in the space game. You'd think that instead of, like, say, Construction Worker Man character, they could have got rid of that Construction Worker Man and added Whiplash. Whiplash would have had an interesting moveset, but no, they didn't. Don't give him that, no. They added the Destroyer from the first Thor movie, so that's fine. Loki is an expanded role. He's got multiple outfits, so he's fine. Overall, though, they're both equal if you get all the DLC, though since I like the X-Men more, I prefer this one. What else here? So far, this space game wins in the plots, the characters, and it doesn't have DLC, so immediately it wins. So let's talk about the hub worlds. And the hub worlds is where this one finally gets its win. Since, this one only had Manhattan and the helicarrier. This has Manhattan, the helicarrier, Asgard, Clint Barton's farm, Sokovia, Washington, D.C., Hydra's base. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of places you can go, man. There's a lot of stuff you can do. They split up the gold bricks all over the place. So there's a lot of content. Far more than just throwing everything into Manhattan Island. And that really sucked. And I'm going to add a couple more points that I forgot to add here. We're going to add here music. And here in the middle here we'll add gameplay. Right? Alright. So let's go talk about the gameplay real quick. The Gameplay in regards to movesets. Now, I did make a complaint in this game that a bunch of characters had repeat movesets. The basic, 1-2 punch, basic combos. A bunch of characters have that. They do that with a lot of the Marvel superheroes in this game, too. At least the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. The Agent Shield. Oh, that's one of the DLCs. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the TV show. If you haven't watched that, then the DLC probably isn't going to matter to you in the slightest. None of the characters you're going to recognize, but they add a bunch of characters from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And they're basically all the exact same character. They shoot a gun, some of them can use gadgets, and some of them can do acrobatics, and some of them can stomp on the ground and cause an earthquake or whatever, but that's it. None of them have super powers. It's just basic garbage. Alright, so, in regards to movesets, though, all of the main characters have been overhauled, at least to an extent. Thor is the exact same as he is in here. Iron Man, though, oh my gosh, he's been overhauled in the best ways. In this, when you play as Iron Man, you had to hold the triangle button to open the roster and switch to a different suit. In this, when you're playing as Iron Man, you just hold down the triangle button and you open the suit menu for Tony Stark, which is basically like a big selectable menu, and all the suits of Iron Man that you have unlocked you could switch between, and each suit does have different skills. One of the suits is super fast. One of the suits is the Hulkbuster. One of the suits has swords. One of the suits is more for melee combat. One of the suits is more for long-range combat. Some of them are just recolors, but the suits cover almost every different ability in the game. So Tony Stark has become one of the most useful characters in the entire game from this overhaul. And the Hulkbuster can fly now, so that's amazing! So I love the overhaul they did to a bunch of these characters. Captain America, well, he had a unique moveset in this. It's even more unique in this. Black Widow is a unique moveset. Hawkeye has a unique moveset. Vision has a unique moveset. Hulk is the same. Hulk and Thor are the exact same character. I guess because they couldn't figure out what they could do with them. But whatever, they have the exact same movesets, but they're still fun to use. What else? Quicksilver. He's originally part of the X-Men, but they use the Age of Ultron version, because, Quicksilver wasn't even in this version. So, not even his X-Men version was in this one. So they have Quicksilver in here, Scarlet Witch is in here, so that's fun to use. They were fun to use. What else? Scarlet Witch can't fly in this one, though we know she could fly in future movies. But I guess they're just using Age of Ultron. She didn't fly in Age of Ultron, as far as I remember. So, yeah, she can't fly. Ultron is a unique character. He has a skill that nobody else in the game could use, so I like that. They have a lot more unique movesets for a lot of the superheroes, so that was very fun to see. Created character. In created character, I have been complaining about this off screen for a while now. In your created character, you would think that if you get the DLC, the outfits and all that, the palettes, the selecting for weapons, skills, outfits, hairstyles, whatever, you would incorporate your DLC characters into the selectable stuff. You would have a little menu of selectable hairs, Then at the bottom, you would have the new DLC stuff as you purchase them. But no, they don't do that. They don't do that. The base character customization is all you get. Even if you get all the DLC, you don't get to choose those DLC shirts, weapons, hairstyles, or whatever, their outfits, whatever. You can't create a character using the DLC stuff. So that sucks. And even in the base game, there's a bunch of weapons, powers, abilities that the base roster has that you could not give your created character. They had this problem in Batman 2 and 3 as well. So, Batman 3 I always hail as one of my favorites. Even Batman 3 has this problem. Star Wars The Force Awakens has this problem. So there's a bunch of them have this problem where there's a bunch of abilities that the base roster can use that you cannot add into your created character. For example, There's a bunch of characters that have claws that they can attack close-ranged melee wise. You cannot select claws from your custom character's menu of weapons. For example, let's say you have a gun, you have a big rifle, you have the dual swords of Nebula. So you can select those for your created character, but you cannot select claws, you cannot select, like, say, the Trisholas that one of the characters could use. You can't select, dagger, the small dagger that one of the characters could use. There's a few things in there that just don't let you use. They're select, so as to say. There's an outfit that you can create that looks almost exactly like Wolverine from the X-Men movies, you know, basic t-shirt, tank top, jeans. So you could pick his, like, not in costume Wolverine outfit, since you could pick Moon Boy's hairstyle, which is basically Wolverine's hairstyle. But you cannot select claws to give him the Wolverine moveset. So you can't create Wolverine as a custom character, as people have claimed that you probably should be able to. Oh, whatever. There's a custom creative character needs work, and I think they fixed it by Lego DC supervillains in the next generation. So by that point, they did fix it. They added a bunch of good stuff into there. They just didn't add into this one. This seems to be the second to last game that released on the Lego series on this platform. And they still haven't fixed it. They still haven't done it. So far, LEGO Marvel Avengers wins in hub worlds. Now we're moving into... Oh, and they win in gameplay. In content, basically, side missions, gold brick arrangements, races, hub world maps and things you could do in them. Which one wins? I'm going to tell you this one wins. And this one wins primarily because there's no frickin' Peter Parker picture thing. Though there is a Hulk selfie thing, it's a lot easier to do. But in this game, there's a series of like 10, 15, 20 missions where you have to do for JJJ to go take a picture of something. You go fly to a location, take a picture, fly back, and tell them about it. And only Peter Parker could take pictures. And the annoying thing is that you could select Spider-Man, but you cannot select Peter Parker in the character created in the roster select menu when you hold down the triangle button. So what you do is you have to select Spider-Man. You have to hold down triangle for him to de-transform back into Peter Parker so that he can take pictures of whatever you're supposed to do. Then you have to hold down triangle again, and he's going to turn to Spider-Man, but you have to hold it again a second time to open up the roster menu to select somebody else to fly back to JJJ's place. Because using Spider-Man when he's using his webs to swing about, it's going to take way too long to get back to JJJ. It just felt like fluff. It was really annoying. And then there was an overabundance of side missions where you just go get the thing and come back, and there was way too much of those, way too much. I feel that they've cut down on the amount of that in here, and that's probably because they've split everything up between a bunch of hub worlds. So, while in this game it felt like Manhattan was overly clustered with way too much garbage, they did spread the garbage out a little bit more in this game, so you don't get overwhelmed by having so much to do in Manhattan that you get absolutely sick of it. So there is some good in that. So I would say that the content has a better even spread in this than it does in this one. Music, this one automatically wins. They pull the music for the movies. The movies' music is great. In this one, the music is okay during the story missions, but in Manhattan, it was absolutely boring. You're right. Yeah. In this, Manhattan still has the basic, boring music in this. But they do add some good music in the other hub worlds. So if you're not in Manhattan, but you're on Asgard, for example, or if you're in South Africa, you do have some good music to listen to while you're doing stuff. So there is some added bonuses to this for music. So, in regards to which one's better, most people say this one is, and I would say that if there was a game that I would probably go back to playing, it might be this one. My copy is a little scratched, so I have a story mission that's a little glitched. Oh, I will say this, I forgot to say, Stan Lee He does have the same awesome Mega Ultra abilities as he did in this, but he's a lot easier to unlock in this one. All you gotta do to unlock Stan Lee Lego Marvel Adventures is to rescue all of the Stan Lees. That's all you gotta do. I think in this one he had to do that and get all the gold bricks. So, And the reason why was because I think there was a Stan Lee in peril in all of the Deadpool missions, too. You had to save those Stan Lees as well. So, and the Deadpool missions were gold brick reliant. So I do have a problem with that. So that would be a detriment there. The Deadpool missions, while you do have 10 extra levels to play in, you still had gold brick reliance on that. There was none of that in that. So at least, so that there is some points here that I would want to give it to be more fair to Lego Marvel Avengers, that I feel this one does have problems with. You have to basically complete the game to get Stan Lee in this. In this, you just have to rescue all the Stan Lee's apparels. None of the bonus missions are gold brick reliant, so you could have, in theory, 150 gold bricks left by the time you get Stan Lee in this. So that's awesome. That's awesome. I love to have a complete roster that have a bunch of gold bricks to collect using that complete roster. In this, you will never get a complete roster until you complete the game. So there's some points here. So really, if you have to pick or choose, it's really hard to do. I love the X-Men, and I love using them in this. But if I have to be honest, I would probably go back to this one before I go back to this one, unless I get a new copy that's not scratched, so I could play through that glitched mission that I had a lot of problems completing the game with. And all the game freezes and crashes. I didn't have as many in this version than I did in this one. Overall, I think this one's the superior in regards to how well it's put together, how well it looks, how stable the game is. But I would ideally want to play this one more than I would want to play this one, mainly just because I prefer the roster in this, because there's no DLC in this one. You don't have to get DLC. All the X-Men are there. Black Panther's in here. Dormammu's in here. A bunch of characters that this one relies on DLC to add back in are already in the base game of this one. Spider-Man's in the base game of this one. All that stuff is in the base game, and it just makes it worth it. It just makes it worth it. But Lego Marvel, that's my Rambleverse or whatever, Lego Marvel Avengers. It is a decent game. It is a very strong entry, and I would put it in the upper half. It would probably be right next to Lego Marvel Superheroes. I can't decide which one I like more, but they're both below Batman 2 and 3 to me, and at least in regards to how well I enjoyed them. I really loved. I'm going to be honest with you. I prefer DC to Marvel. Just honest with you. Marvel has better live-action movies, but DC has better animated movies and better stories in general. I know more of the characters. I just prefer DC to Marvel. So Batman games are probably going to be higher than the Marvel ones to me. I'm just being honest with you. It's just personal bias. But these two would be below Batman 3 and 2 and 3 to me. So there you have it. I would put it below Lego Lord of the Rings. Put them both below Lego Lord of the Rings. What else? Trying to see what else. What other games did I play? Well, Pirates of the Caribbean, I'd say it's better than Pirates of the Caribbean. It's better than both of the Harry Potter games. It's a solid entry overall. It's a solid entry. It's worth playing. It's worth taking a look at if you're a Lego fan. If you're not a Lego fan, then just play this one. This is the only one you need to play. Only play this one if you're a Lego fan. If you're a fan of the games in general and you want to play them all, this is a good one to get, because it's just more of this.